Hi, Biju.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining Canada Coach Academy today for this interview.
Well,
Please,
thank you for taking the time.
of course. So please start out by telling us a little bit about you.
Sure. Let's see, my family, I'm the youngest of five. So two brothers and two sisters. I have a 16 and a half year old son. Uh, and I've traveled most of my adult life, if you will. I've lived and worked and studied in India, Japan, United States, and now Canada. And I worked for all different types of organizations, whether it's startups as a co-founder, startups as an employee, mid-size, large-size organizations, and I think even a stint as an independent contractor. So all that fuels my my personality as to how I look at things and how I operate.
All right. Now tell us a little bit. You mentioned about the background you chose today. Tell us a bit about bamboo. You said something about resilience.
Yeah, this kind of comes from, I guess, maybe a Japanese influence. I did from grade 7 to grade 11 in Japan, Nagoya, Japan. So almost 4.5 years of my life was immersed in that culture, if you will. And then I went back to work. I was working offshore, and I was still going back to Japan every couple of weeks in my adult life. And bamboo played a instrumental, I guess, a role for me because it shows resilience. It's not something that's easy to break, and even when it dries up, if you will, it actually becomes stronger. So there is something to be said about, and it takes long to grow,
Right.
but when it grows, the roots are very strong. So that has kind of formed my thinking along the way.
A beautiful metaphor. Thank you for sharing. So tell us about the moment you decided to become a coach.
Yeah, I think as my career progressed, I've had to have larger and larger teams to manage and run, and teams are made up of people. And I've always been fascinated about how you get organizations or teams or people to perform, 2 times, 5 times, 10 times than where they are today. And then I started to read about teams that work. Navy SEALs, professional athletic teams, basketball teams, surgeons, operating room. And a common theme appeared to me was that, it wasn't so much that people didn't know what to do. It was really about how do you get them to understand what they do and how to do it and just be better at it. And that's why so I think I was maybe coaching over my career, but then probably about 2.5 years ago, I thought, let's figure out the right way to do this and what are those structures and frameworks that we can use to actually increase team performance. But that also includes individual performance, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, powerful. So why did you choose Canada Coach Academy? What brought you to them?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So one, I was looking for something that was ICF approved.
Yeah.
So I did my research. I got 4 or 5 organizations, I guess, to reach out to. And my own requirements was I was looking for ICF certified. I was also looking for applied training, not just kind of going to classroom and leaving, but actually practicing. And everybody has a different learning style. So for me, it was learning by doing. And what
Right.
I found in this coaching exercise was that you do have to do to
Mm.
actually be better at it. It's not something you just kind of read in a book and think you'll just do it.
Right.
So that was the other thing. And the final thing I would be is of the 5 that I reached out to, I think 4, if I recall, 4 of them were more about selling me a program. I think Canada Coach Academy was probably the first one that I was actually interested in why I wanted to do it, what my objectives were. And I think Natalie played a critical role in that when she asked me those questions. That actually really got me to really understand exactly why I'm doing what I want to do versus just and a commitment was required. So that was the main reason. And subsequently, I've had my management team go through the same exercise with Canada Coach. So they manage differently today than they did, let's say, 6 months ago as a result of that.
Wow, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about what's different about a coaching conversation.
Sure. When I look at, one of the key learnings for me through the training was the difference between coaching, mentoring, and therapy. And though it sounds like a very maybe basic definition, but it was really important for me because most of us who grow up in organizations are very directive. We tell people what to do. And that's kind of how we're trained, actually, right? And as you go up the chain, the more you tell people what to do, the more you're seen as more forceful or more in control. But it doesn't work, actually, all the time. In organizations, you have to know when to be directive and when to be coaching and when to be mentoring. So that definition was very important for me to know. And when I got it, then it became really easy for me. So for me, the coaching conversation was, how do you turn experiences into learning? Like, how do you get people to reflect on the things they do and why they do it and learn from it so they can be better? And it's also about self-awareness and raising their own self-awareness about the things they do and how they do it and the impact they have around the people that are around them. And you reinforce the strengths people have, and you let them explore the challenges and get them to take responsibility for their actions in their development. So individually, I think that's always a good thing as people discover, because the answers are there. The question is, how do you ask the right questions to pull it out? I think there's something very empowering about a coaching conversation. And for organizations, I think it's invaluable because it takes a different approach in a coaching conversation compared to being very directive. It definitely increases employee engagement because people feel that they're part of something that about them versus me just telling them something. It improves collaboration, improves teamwork, and it also increased the overall strength of the team to be resilient and operate. So I think that's the biggest thing. And I would say, listen carefully, respond thoughtfully, and don't have this urge to solve everybody's problem because people have the answer. They just need help to figuring it out. So that's how I would define a coaching conversation.
Well, that's beautiful. It's not just a coaching conversation, but coach mindset leadership, which you're a great example of. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. So how has being a coach changed your life? You've mentioned some of the corporate side. What else?
I'm definitely far more curious than I was before. I think I listen more. I don't feel the urge to talk more. and I think I'm more self-aware of my own biases, even as a leader. And I know when they're coming. So even in a conversation, I'm able to understand the triggers and really try to minimize the impact of those biases and give the other person a chance to express what they want to express. It's also less stress. I've actually found whether it's individual one-on-one, because teams are meet up with people. So if you really want team performance, then you actually have to look at individual performance as well, right? And then collection of teams, organization performance, and etc. So I'm less stressful because I know the answers are there. We just have to find them. And that one-on-one conversation, I find that even with my own management team. I don't feel the urge to have all the answers. And even if I do have the answers, I discourage myself from giving it to them. And uncovering it through the conversation that we have is far more productive for me. So it gives me a little bit more time back than I didn't have before. So definitely my outlook is different than before. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Such a beautiful process as we,
It is. It is, and I've seen that in my own team as well. I've seen that in my own team as well, as they deal with their people, as we interact, and I don't get stressed about difficult conversations, because I think if you kind of take a coach approach, then they may be difficult conversations, but we're kind of in it together to get to an end, and that reduces a lot of stress.
Yeah, that beautiful partnering, right?
That's right. That reduces a lot of stress, even when it comes to feedback. Yeah.
Oh,
it's something that everybody should go through. And yeah, I think every organization will do it, because the traditional approach of just telling hasn't yielded the best results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you another question. I'm looking forward to your answer on this one. What is your personal mission as a coach?
To empower people to be better and achieve their goals. I think that's the, I like to think in simple terms. And I think empowering is good, and better is always good. And I believe everybody wants to be better at something. I don't think that's a judgment. I think everybody has an inherent desire to be better at something. It may not be right, and everybody's value systems and they're different, and that's okay, right? As long as so getting people to understand what it is that they're good at and why they're good at it and why they want to be better is I think that's a mission for sure for me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So what will your footprint be on the world? What's the impact of all this?
Wow. My footprint, I would say, is that everything or everyone or any organization that I interacted with, I left it better than when I started. And it was all about somebody else and not about me. Yeah, I think that would be something, and that's perhaps as a result of liking change, because I've kind of had that through my whole life, moving and interacting with different people and a whole bunch of other things. I think that part is important for me, is to, how do you leave something better than when you found it, right? In whatever ways is good for them. It's not about what's good for me. Yeah.
Well, that is a beautiful application of your passion, to hear how you expect that to go. I can't enjoy it. So, what message would you write on a billboard for the world to see if you had one chance to give a message to the world?
I would say live your truth, and what empowers you is right.
Expound on that part a little bit.
Sure. Living your truth means the things that you believe, you should live that.
Yeah.
Whether other people agree with it or not, that doesn't mean you shouldn't take into confidence people who give you advice. But at the end of the day, I think you're happiest when you live what you believe to be true to you. I think that's important. What empowers you is right is exactly that. If you find something that empowers you, even though others may not agree with it, if it's right for you, you should do it. Right? You shouldn't be swayed by lots of opinions on the topic. It's good to get input, but at the end of the day, if you believe it empowers you to be better, to be different, to be the things that you want to be, how you want to live, what kind of person you want to be, then you should do that. I'm very much about kind of be your own individual. And I've been blessed with, even in the corporate world, my own people leaders who have given me the freedom to just be, which is great. I think freedom is great, right? Regardless of what you do. Yeah.
Right. Well, Biju, it's been an honor to spend this time with you and get to know you a little bit. Thank you for all you've shared.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to talk.
Of course. And a special thank you from Canada Coach Academy. We look forward to hearing more about the great things you're doing out there in the world.
Thank you so much.
All right.